Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the Gloucester School Committee to order. It's Wednesday, April 28th, 2021. And this meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with the state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and banning participation of banning gatherings of more than 25 people. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. We are going to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing a litigation, and we will come back into session, public session, at 7 o'clock. If we conclude our executive session before that, we will recess until 7 o'clock, and then we will restart the meeting. I'll make a motion that we go to meet in executive session to discuss ongoing litigation regarding the East Gloucester Veterans Memorial Elementary School pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws 30A, Section 21A. Purpose 3, as the open meeting may have detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and to return to open session.
Second.
Okay. Maria, could we have a roll call vote?
Kathy Clancy,
Yes.
Mr. Favazza,
Yes.
Chairman Pope,
Yes.
Ms. Prince,
Yes.
Mayor Taken,
Yes.
Ms. Watson,
Yes.
and Ms. Weason.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to go into executive session, and we'll be back in public session at 7 o'clock. Thank you. I'm going to call the Gloucester School Committee back into public session. I'll remind everybody that the mission of Gloucester Public Schools is for all students to be successful, engaged, lifelong learners. This meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with the state open meeting law, consistent with the governor's orders suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law and banning gatherings of more than 10 people. This meeting will be conducted by remote participation. If you're calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you're watching on a computer or a device, there is a raise hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options during oral communications to be recognized to speak. Maria, could we have a roll call vote for attendance?
Kathy Clancy, I don't see Kathy.
She'll probably be here.
What's that?
I said she'll probably be here in a minute. She probably had to take a break. We've been in meetings since 4 o'clock.
Mr. Favazza,
Present.
Chairman Pope,
Here.
Ms. Prince,
Here.
Mayor Taken,
Here.
Ms. Watson,
Here.
and Ms. Weason.
Here.
Oh, Kathy Clancy.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask you to join me in the salute to the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the next order of business is oral communications. And oral communications. The public shall have the opportunity at every regular school committee meeting to be heard under oral communications. Oral communication shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to the school committee business to appear before the school committee, state their problem without debate, and the matter will be referred to the proper subcommittee. For items that are on the agenda, members of the public may address the committee with the permission of the chair. Persons speaking under the oral communications shall be limited to 3 minutes each, and shall submit a copy of their prepared communication to the recording secretary. The school committee chair shall not allow complaints as to individual performance or character. That being said, I want to start by stating something that was in the paper today, in which I was not quoted correctly. The paper was talking about a letter from the MSBA, which refers to litigation that's going on with the city and the MSBA and the Department of Environmental Affairs. The school committee is part of the city of Gloucester and is therefore subject to this litigation as well. And consequently, we will not be allowing discussion or we will not be engaging any discussion concerning that litigation. But I was asked by the reporter for the Times what projects, what this school building committee was currently doing. And I said, we are in the process of preparing bid documents for the demolition of the school and the site works. What got put in the paper was that we were preparing to demolish the school, which is not accurate, as well as we were going through the permitting process. So just wanted people to be clear on that, we're not tearing down the school tomorrow. So with that being said, I want to open it up to oral communications, and I will remind people that they are here to speak to the school committee's business. Okay, so Pam Steele.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak tonight. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I just have a question, and if it's not in the right vein, you can just tell me and I'll figure another way to find it. I was wondering if, because I've been reading a lot about the escalating costs of building materials that are not expected to have their prices go down even after COVID, is there something that you all do to change to different materials to keep it within the budget with the cup of coffee cost or not? Or is this the wrong place, or am I off the wall with this? Because I'm really concerned, because when you think of the massive size of it, it could double in price.
I can't answer that. The building committee, along with the design team and the owner's project manager and our contractor, we are locked into a budget. And if things change where we can't fix that budget, we have to go back and review plans and make adjustments so that that budget, because that budget can't change.
Oh, thank you very much. That's really been a concern. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move on to our next agenda item, which is well, I already made my comments. Recognitions. Do we have any recognitions from the committee? Okay. Seeing none, we will move on to the highlight of the night, the Megan, the student GHS Student Advisory Council. What I always look forward to.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm going to start off by saying that from the class of 2023, they're doing the shoe drive again. It's the Angel Bin shoe drive and drop off, which will be on May 15th at GHS from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. They're collecting athletic or fashion sneakers and cleats with They're in good condition with no holes. Sorry, I'm a little bit under the weather, so I'm trying not to sniffle. News from the Drama Club. They're working very hard this week in filming, and they've been filming with the cameras that were donated from Gloucester Education Foundation earlier this year, so they can vlog each day and create like a little video diary of the experience, since it's new to us doing it virtual and actually being able to use the building. And then that diary will be on all their social media pages before the performance. And then obviously the performance yet again is High School Musical, which will be online May 20th and 21st at 7 p.m. and May 22nd at 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. And tickets are available at gloucesterhighdrama.blogspot.com. For the teachers at GHS, tomorrow we will be celebrating a special and loved teacher, Miss Donna Tarr, as tomorrow is her last day, and her family hired an ice cream truck to deliver treats to all the teachers. News from NHS. NHS will be having elections for the new officers this Friday. On May 2nd, we'll be celebrating Teacher Appreciation Week, and Gloucester Education Foundation will be sending a whoopie pie truck to each school to celebrate the teachers. Martina Gallo and some of the soon-to-be seniors have been working on the 8th grade move-up day, and it is finally completed and finished, and it is awesome, and it has been posted on YouTube. Like in the past at GHS, we've been doing the door decorating contests to get some cheer back into the hallways, and the winner for May will be judged this week. News from guidance. GHS held an in-school day SAT on Tuesday, which 88 students took part in the event as an alternative to the typical weekend testing. News from Deca. The Deca Success Award was Eliana Ferrara. She's a junior in her 3rd year of Deca, who achieved the highest level of achievement as a finalist for the Deca International Competition in Financial Consulting. Eliana has worked hard diligently by taking challenging finance exams and making persuasive sales presentations at the highest professional level. Having achieved 1st place at the state competition last year, as well as this year, her crowning achievement to date this year as the finalist, placing her in an exclusive club of competitors. And the Deca Emerging Leader Award. This award recognizes a Deca member that has demonstrated exemplary attributes as academically prepared, community-oriented, professionally responsible, and experienced leader. Ryan Bergen, who is a senior this year, has been in Deca for 3 years and has achieved success in competing by earning 6th place at the state competition, and exemplifies these leadership qualities as president of our Gloucester Deca program. Homecoming. The winner of Homecoming King and Queen was Dylan Orlando and Mia Wheeler. We'll be doing a homecoming celebration during our Senior Spirit Week, which is the week of May 10th through the 14th. And then finally, seniors are having the Spirit Week, and the themes are Monday is Taurus Day, Tuesday is Roman God and Goddess Day, Wednesday is Out of This World, Thursday is Career Day, and Friday is College Day. We'll also do College Day again on the seniors' last day, which will be May 28th. And that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you, Megan. Any questions? Laura?
Thank you, Megan. Can you send the school committee like links to the YouTube videos and stuff like that? I'd love
Yes,
to
of
see
course.
that and post it.
I can send it to Maria, and then she can get it to you guys.
That would be great. Anything like that would be really wonderful to see and to share. Thank you.
Okay. Kathy?
Megan, can you tell us a little bit more about how the seniors are involved in the 8th grade move up, what actually that interaction is?
Yep, so normally what we'll do is it will be the freshman class and then the seniors who, when the 8th graders come, so it won't be my class, but it's the juniors, but because of the seniors, they run it. And then normally they just go on a tour throughout the school, but obviously this year because of COVID, we decided to play it safe and do a video version. So a member of the senior class 2021, Martina Gallo, filmed and edited it, whereas I believe it was 2 or 3 juniors who will become seniors just walked around the building, showed them the classrooms, showed how the numbers worked, stuff like that.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, thank you, Megan, and we'll see you soon. You're
Thank you,
welcome
guys.
today, as always.
Thank you,
Okay.
Megan.
Bye. Okay, next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Are there any items on the consent agenda that anybody would like to remove for further discussion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Marie, could we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Favazza,
Abstain.
I'm sorry.
I have to abstain.
Okay. Chairman Poe,
Yes.
Ms. Prince,
Yes.
Mayor Taken,
Yes.
Ms. Watson,
Yes.
Ms. Weason,
Yes.
and Kathy Clancy.
It passes 6 in favor, 1 abstention. And I would just like to point out that Mr. Favazza abstained because he is one of the things on the consent agenda is the acceptance of a donation that he made to the schools to pay for some of the tents at some of the elementary schools. And thank you very much, Joel. Moving on to deliberations on educational issues, and I'll turn it over to Superintendent Lummis. We have a cast of thousands here today, and I guess I'll leave it to you to carry on.
Thank you, Chairman Pope. Yes, we've got a great crowd here. We'll get to folks, and a lot of them are here for the K-5 math update. Do want to go through a few very important updates related to COVID and the high school quickly. Principal Cook is here as well. We expect this to go pretty quickly. It's a lot of good news, actually, which we seem to be sharing all throughout this year. Let me, as I typically do, share my screen and this presentation. You can see something that says Together GPS. Okay, for the first time in a long time, I've changed the this title page because we're no longer Bad Together GPS. We are Together GPS, or we will be fully soon. And also, I want to share this notion of we've got this. I was at the high school this morning. Before I had a chance to talk to Principal Cook and Mr. Bach there, as we were talking about high school going back in full, I had a chance to just meet, just sort of came across Bonesy, as he's known, the custodian, Joan Dallin, and one of the school secretaries there. And when I said, some changes are coming up, all three of them in one form or another said, we've got this. And they're very positive about the high school's ability to support its students, the high school's ability to welcome their students back in, and we'll give you an update on that. It's still a work in progress. There's a bunch of work to be done, but I was just really taken by the confidence of those three folks who are integral to the working of the school building in so many levels, and just their positivity and their approach to just getting it done. And so I just wanted to share that. I've experienced that approach all throughout this year from so many people in our schools, just the notion that we can figure it out, and we certainly have been, and we certainly continue to do that. So let me just jump into some updates here on COVID. So the numbers are continuing to go down in the city. So lots of good news on the city side. We're at the lowest number of cases since November at this point across the city, 19 cases. And that's been a big shift over the past 2-3 weeks. There was an uptick. We're also seeing now is, and we'll look at this closely, is from April break, were there any increases? But there haven't been yet. But we'll keep an eye on that, of course. At this point, there are only 4 active cases across all the schools. There have only been 5 new cases since the school committee last met. Okay, so that's really positive. Again, we continue our pool testing at both O'Malley and GHS. You can see there have been no additional positive tests. Well, we've only been in school for about 5 days since last school committee meeting because we had break last week. But this week's pools, there are no positive tests this week as well. So that continues to go quite well. Here's just an accounting, as we do every time we meet, of the active cases today. There are 5 active cases 2 weeks ago. There are 4 right now. You can see only Plum Cove, O'Malley, and Gloucester High School I think the Plum Cove one will be resolved shortly. So again, just doing really, really well across the schools. O'Malley, as folks know, came in fully this week. 4 weeks ago, O'Malley was pretty high. We said we'd keep an eye on it and we could change if that was the case. But of course, O'Malley for the last 2-3 weeks has been in good shape, and as it continues to be. So just an update. This is not new news, but I want to make sure everyone hears it again. Is our staff, we did a staff vaccination survey about 2 weeks ago, and about almost 2/3 of our staff responded. That's all staff. And 93% of our staff at this point are fully vaccinated. At this point, I think it's probably the full 93% are probably within or have gotten their second dose or their first or their shot of Johnson & Johnson. Just really are just impressed with our school staff's ability to really push ahead and make sure that they're safe, their families are safe, and also and of course, students and families, our school community safe because of getting vaccinations in a very, very fast manner. So just really appreciate that effort by not only our staff, but also those folks in the community who help them in getting appointments and taking care of that really as quickly as possible. Our staff just did that very, very quickly and are still doing it. So there are also big shifts locally in the state, which of course we're affected by. So I mentioned that Gloucester Department of Health says that is reporting our cases are the lowest since November. Vaccinations are continuing to accelerate and broaden. At this point, this is reported today by the Department of Health. 2.4 million people in Massachusetts are fully vaccinated, and another 1.2 have had their first dose of Moderna or Pfizer. And those vaccinations are increasing, I think, in somewhere in the neighborhood of 50,000 plus every day. And then, of course, the most recent news is that vaccinations are now open to all folks who live in the Commonwealth who are 16 years or older. So high school students will be able to get vaccinations as well. And then also, just in terms of really recent news yesterday, we all know, or you may have seen, that statewide limitations on face coverings, group limits, events, indoor activities are being modified and eased over time. All of that is connected, obviously, as those things in the beginning there about lower cases and better path and more vaccinations have allowed those who make these decisions, the governor and others, to move forward on that. We're also continuing to learn more and more about COVID in schools. Continued over the past few months, there have been a growing number of studies that have been looking very closely at how COVID spreads, or it turns out does not spread inside of schools. And also studies here in Massachusetts and also national, international, showing that even at 3 feet of space, that has not led to significant, has led to very, very rare transmission of COVID in schools. And we have experienced that as well. We've only had 4 in-school cases and 1 out-of-school case related to extracurricular activities where we've had in-school transmission. That's out of 180 cases across the whole year. So a very, very low number. And those are the things, the vaccinations, the lower cases, the studies that continue to give the folks that we listen to, Department of Health, Executive Office of Health and Human Services, Department of Education, to keep going with returning to the regular school day. And yesterday, DESE finally announced its expectations to return to a regular school day for 9 through 12. So make it fully K-12 on May 17th. And Principal Cook is here. We'll talk more about that. And so that's I go through it quickly, but it is, as everyone knows, a long time in coming. Bit by bit by bit, we've learned more and more in our schools across the state, across the world, about how to do this well. And so it's been a long time coming, but we are prepared and continue to prepare. We are in school at K-8 with a regular school day. Folks at O'Malley, lunch was a challenge on Monday, but they're working it out and they will continue to work it out. And some students are understandably anxious because they haven't been in school as much, and maybe they've just returned from remote. And our staff and our counselors are supporting that small number of students, making sure they have what they need. So it's not without bumps. No, none of this is easy, but definitely going well and starting well at O'Malley. And we expect more of the same as the high school moves towards May 17th as well. Principal Cook will give us some more details. There are also some other shifts related to these changes. Most particularly is the quarantine protocols have been revised again. So you may remember that in December, there were revisions to the quarantine protocol as they move towards a more nuanced approach and they move to from a strict 10, 14-day quarantine to 7, 10, or 14 days. And we've been following this, with the guidance of the Department of Health and by instruction from the Department of Health, since December. And so they made additional revisions this last week. And so this comes from the governor's office, from the Department of Health, and from Deca. And so the shift here, and I'll spend some time on this and see if folks have questions, is that while the close contact definition and rules have not changed, meaning if you are 6 feet or closer for 15 minutes or more, people in schools will be considered close contacts, but the quarantine rules have changed, okay? If you are, you only need to quarantine, if you're determined to be a close contact with a positive individual in a school setting, okay, and you are masked, both people are masked, the person who was positive and the individual, say, me, okay, I will not have to quarantine if I was masked and I was 3 feet or more from that individual, okay, for 15 minutes or more, 15 minutes more. I only have to quarantine if I am within 3 feet. Okay, we don't expect that to happen very often because our minimum distancing will be 3 feet in all schools and all classrooms. Okay, so we do, and this has been checked with the Department of Health locally here. This is the guidance that the Department of Health will give any school people, students, or and their families or staff who are determined to be close contacts. So we expect that the quarantining will shift quite a bit. And again, this applies to folks when you're masked in school. You'll see on the right-hand column here, it also includes buses as well. Sorry, I want to explain that, buses as well. If masks are not being worn, that could be in extracurricular activities, athletics, sports, that could be during lunch, okay? And you're 6 feet or closer, then you will have to follow the same quarantine protocols that I showed you on the page before. So that's new information. Department of Public Health will be operating that way starting this week. We will communicate about that to both staff and families as an update. Let me just pause there to see if there are any questions from any committee members about that, to see if I explained that well or was confusing. I'll just turn off the.
Joel, did you have a question? No. Okay.
I see Laura's hand up.
Laura?
Thank you. Just a question about inside and outside, since we're on the playground now. How does that work as far as, I know kids are masked on the playground, but they can be within 3 feet of each other as they're playing. What's the protocol there?
Yeah, so that would be, my understanding that, is that if they're within 3 feet for 15 minutes or more, so a lot of, some playground activity obviously is very transitory and a lot of movement. If they're close within 3 feet, we hope they are not. We ask them not to be. They are probably reminded not to be. But if they were deemed to be within 3 feet for that 15 minutes or more, they would have to quarantine, yes.
So there's not a difference between interior and exterior, like inside and outside, as far as exposure?
I don't believe there is. I will double check that. Okay. But yeah, we'll make sure that we are accurate in that. But I don't believe there is a difference at this point.
Okay.
I mean, from what I've read.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions on that?
I don't see any.
Okay, great. So let me just wrap that up, and then I think we can get to Principal Cook and the high school news. Second here. Oh, and just a reminder to everyone, okay? We are not pulling off of everything, okay? Our safety protocols have been working. They are still in place and will still be in place. That's face coverings, the 3 feet distancing in class, obviously, 6 feet at lunch when folks are unmasked. That'll happen at the high school as well. Hand hygiene, monitoring for symptoms and staying out of school if you have symptoms. Our weekly COVID testing, or we'll continue full contact tracing if there's a positive individual in our schools. All those things which have worked so well do need to continue, okay? At the high school in particular now, and we will have more students in at any given time, but the high school is working through that to make sure that the distancing in class fits. So just want to make sure that everyone realizes that that these pieces do need to remain in place and will help keep us safe as they have. So then just quickly return to the school day. I'll shut this down, but I do want to just really highlight the work that Principal Cook and his team have done over the last 2 weeks. You remember that he was here just 2 weeks ago. There have been about 5 school days since then, but there have been apparently about 15 work days for Principal Cook and others to get this done. And he'll talk us about some of these details here, but just want to say that really pleased, really impressed that some of the questions and concerns he raised 2 weeks ago as open-ended, as work to be done, they really resolved many of them, if not all of them. So James, I'll pass it off to you to give folks a quick summary of how we're doing.
Sure thing. So yeah, so I'm going to speak, about general parameters, addressing concerns that have been brought up previously and how we're seeking to resolve them. So the first area of concern is the classes over capacity at 3 feet. So we're not in any case, in any circumstances, going to have students closer than 3 feet in our classes, just like we haven't from the beginning. So in order to address that, which we already had to begin addressing for the seniors, to bring the seniors back, as we're still planning on starting that May 10th, so ahead of this other beginning. The primary way of addressing that is through satellite classes, so that in places that have to be where the class cannot fit at one time in that particular class, we rotate students out of the space so they're remote but in the building. So so they're attending to the class, the number of students who are over the capacity within the building, but in another space and accessing the learning remotely. So a lot of high schools, this has, so I've been able to talk with other principals who are doing this, who have done this at different points in the year, and, talk about the kinds of environments that work best in doing this. So one of the things we've also learned over the last couple of weeks is this work will be done section by section, course by course, with administration working with the program leader of the department and the teacher, empowering the teacher to be involved in this determination of how to best use the satellite space for the students. So that's the work that we're beginning now, and that's a lot of what the work will be. So I'd prefer if the turnaround wasn't Tuesday the announcement and Wednesday I'm presenting at the school committee, because starting tomorrow we'll be meeting with staff members and working on each individual situation where we're over capacity at 3 feet, and we have again learned from our own work, but also from other schools about this.
James, if I could just add one thing is some of the work you've been able to do with you and the deans and others is lower the number.
Just about to get to that.
Great. Thank you.
That's next. Right.
Great, super.
I know when we, so the other aspect of the work we've been doing is reducing the number of classes that are over capacity at 3 feet by looking very detailed at room configurations and oddities, and using this tool that we have, a computer-based geometric tool, to see if there are any places where we can arrange desks differently at 3 feet. Even if we get 1 more desk or 2 more desks in some cases that has removed the need for a satellite situation in those rooms. So we've been able to reduce, since the last time we spoke, we've kept working at this in a room by room way to look at the ways that we could reduce this number. So That's again work that we'll be sharing with the teachers in those teaching spaces, exactly what this new arrangement will be at 3 feet, to again reduce the number of rooms at which we're over capacity at 3 feet. So that's another part of the work. By reducing the total number, we also will be able to maximize the appropriate space. We won't have to jam students into the field house for these satellite situations, which was not obviously an ideal learning environment. We will still have a use for the field house that we'll talk about in a minute, but we'll be able to have the satellites in more appropriate supervised spaces. So that's a big big improvement, and it's been excuse me, it's been incremental, right? You got looking at each, in many individual situations, individual rooms, and designing, because we have a lot of irregularities at the school, so designing what is best for that space. And then working with each individual teacher on the use of the satellite for those particular students. Because this is complicated, and particulars can get, we can get bogged down in particulars. I'm going to just move to the second big concern, which is lunch, and sort of the biggest concern. And here's where we had moved forward back in March with investigating use of a floor covering for the field house that would allow us to use the field house floor for uses, other than, athletics, but still preserve. We still got to preserve that warranty on our brand new, beautiful floor. So we have that floor that we have on its way has been vetted. It's appropriate for the uses that we're planning to use it for. In fact, that was just today that came through for us. And so that we're now, Gary Frisch is working on accelerating that arrival of the floor. So we do have some time to make sure it's, ahead, way before the 17th, we're able to arrange it appropriately, and so that we can use the field house space to expand our capacity to be at 6 feet for lunch. That's a key element of our plan, is using the field house, the bleachers, as well as with this floor covering, using the field house for lunch at 6 feet, as well as the cafeteria at 6 feet. And so with the seniors having an open campus, as we had already planned and presented to the seniors, to reduce some numbers for cafeteria use, we're able to accommodate lunches for students using the field house in combination with the cafeteria. So that was another big thing that we've been working on for a while, and we've had a breakthrough with, and we've done all the mapping of exactly how to use that at 6 feet. We've looked at supervision for the space, how best to maximize supervision and sight lines and all this kind of thing, to help make lunch work the best we can. We know, we're able to learn from some of the difficulties others have had. A third aspect of this that I brought up was by bringing more students into the building, increasing the number of students who would need to quarantine based on being within 6 feet, right? And so you've just heard from Ben in talking about how this new change that we didn't know and couldn't know was coming will also mean that because our students are masked and abiding by all of those rules, they will always be at 3 feet or more, that we won't have unnecessary quarantining needing to happen, and that will reduce some of the learning loss for May and June for our students, because that has been one of the elements we were concerned about with bringing everyone back in person. So those are 3 areas of kind of an overview of 3 of the biggest kind of issues that we have been facing and we continue to face. The issues don't just go away, but that's the progress we've made with each of them. Now the work that remains is, as I said before, working with teachers on their classroom spaces, on the particular places where we're over capacity at 3 feet, continuing to communicate with families as the plans take shape, so that we are ready for our version of full in-person, full-day learning on May 17th.
Thank you very much, James. Yes, questions from the committee?
Samantha?
Thank you. I don't really have a question. I just have a comment because I was just so incredibly taken aback hearing you say that you're using a computer program to determine oddities in classrooms, and that level of commitment is just like truly awesome. And I'm just so appreciative of that. I mean, it's not at all what I was expecting you to say, to be honest with you. And it's just incredible. So I'm just very appreciative of all the hard work that you and your team have put in to getting the students back in the building.
Thank you.
Kathy?
I'm wondering if we have, thank you, James. I'm really happy for all of the students and for the teachers to be able to have, you know, days that hopefully resemble something that feels better for everybody. So my question is to either you or to Ben, in terms of going back full time in both the elementary and middle school and now the high school, do we expect that more students will want to come in? Are we, you know, what have we seen at the elementary and middle that might help inform numbers at the high school?
Elementary and middle, there was limited, as I reported, about 35 at the middle school, about 30 at the elementary. They've got very different, you know, versions of their remote academies at K through 8. At this point, though, we also did communicate to families that there was sort of a last call on that for K through 8. So that's already happened, obviously. I'll let James explain the complexities of the high school and limitations.
Yeah, so at this point, students who have been in the remote academy have invested now, you know, in the second semester, a term plus in their online coursework that they're getting support from GHS teachers. So it's more difficult for them to make a transition back to in-person learning. However, you know, in many cases, especially where students are not doing well remotely, we are continuing to work to bring students back. It becomes increasingly difficult as time progresses, though.
That's because the courses they don't line up. In terms of
Right.
online courses and the in-school courses don't line up, just to be clear about that.
Thank you, Ben. Yeah, that's right. So it's difficult to bring the students back, so they're not going to be at the same place, particularly if they haven't been progressing well in remotely. And then in vice versa, it's, you know, difficult to switch into the remote academy as well if somebody wanted to do that at this late point in the year.
Can I just ask one more quick thing?
Okay.
Do we have any intention of asking students, surveying students who's been vaccinated just for information purposes? You know, not that, I mean, maybe some parents might be interested. I'm not sure if it would bear on any decision making, but it would be curious given that we have 16-year-olds and above now being eligible. And I do know I've heard of many jumping on the opportunity to get vaccinated.
Yeah, so we hadn't thought about that. I mean, I hadn't thought about that. I had not discussed it with you know, any of the team here. No, I wonder if we could get some information from the city. I just don't know if that's information that can be shared, like, because the city has been sharing percentage of adults who are vaccinated. So I don't, but I can look into that. I think, you know, part of the reason we surveyed our staff is because we had a real clear sense that folks were really just doing a fantastic job on it. And we thought that would help confidence. And I think it did. It certainly helped my confidence, speaking personally. So I think we'll look into that. I just don't know what limitations or we might face on that, but appreciate the suggestion after.
Melissa?
Thank you. Before I ask my question on that line, I mean, other schools are bringing in small clinics to vaccinate kids. So it would be interesting if we could survey or find out how many are interested in getting the vaccine, but just aren't able to get access to it. If you watch on the news several times in the past couple of days, they've shown other schools where like the firemen are coming in and vaccinating the students just as a extra opportunity to get more people vaccinated. So I'd be curious who would be interested in getting vaccinated if we were able to provide a service like that or make arrangements for our students to get vaccinated.
I haven't watched the news recently, but so if anyone on this call knows of districts or schools that are having clinics like that, including yourself, Melissa, or anybody else, please email me and let me know which schools or districts, because that'd be a great place for us to start. In addition, I'll follow up with the Department of Health as well. Thank you.
Absolutely. But my question is to James, and James, thank you very much. We knew the high school was our biggest hurdle in getting back in, and look at here we are tonight on April 28th, informing the public that the kids are coming back. We've been waiting for this day. So great work to you and your team and everyone that made this happen, because we knew it was next to impossible to happen, but here we are, we've done it. Gloucester has done the best when it comes to COVID and keeping our kids in school. And we all should pat ourselves on the back for that, including our community that helped make it happen. But my question is, with all the talk and changes down the high school, have there been any concerns from staff regarding the changes that are coming? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all have concern. Like I mean, there are certainly concerns in staff. We all have concerns, as you and I think anybody. We've been doing this. You all have been doing this. We've all been doing this since long hours in the summer, right? And so there's going to be some trepidation about another shift at this point, and and those worries manifest in different ways for different staff members and different people, like the things they are particularly worried about. So it would be Pollyanna of me and inaccurate for me to say that there are no concerns with this. On the other hand, as Ben launched this with, it's the this can-do attitude of like, we got this, like we can close the doors in some meetings, talk about our our worries, our concerns, our challenges, put them on the table, and then look at, okay, how can we best address those in the time between now and May 17th, so that launch on May 17th is, we've got things down. We managed to do that with a little bit of more time to get to October 13th to launch, right? We were able to do that to get to the first day of the school year, as a remote school and do that well, able to get to the 13th. We were able to get through some of the winter months where we had to work really hard to come up with ways to get students who weren't getting tested, right? Things like that. We faced all sorts of challenges and wrinkles along the way. Kids who weren't doing well remotely, bringing them back into school, right? Getting more kids into the remote engagement center. So during the remote part of the day, they were actually here with us. Every one of these things has brought concerns and worries. This is no different than that. And so I think what I would turn to is the staff's resilience and honesty about looking at problems, identifying problems, sharing those problems, and then being a collective force in looking to resolve them and solve them, but not denying them or pretending they're not there. So that's what I see happening. Again, hallway conversations today since the announcement. The announcement to me came from a staff member in the middle of a staff meeting yesterday as I was going over our Mcas tutorials training, because we got Mcas coming up next week, right? We're doing the training, and I get the word, the commissioner, we're coming all in. Okay, we've already got things in place. We've kept working on the problem, as you've heard tonight since our last meeting. So that's the spirit of, okay, this is the news. These are the issues. Now let's look at how to address them.
I only ask because the school committee is not meeting for a couple of weeks again, and I just want to make sure you had everything you needed in case there was some sort of request or something before we meet again. But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Laura.
Thank you. So this may be for Ben as much or even more than James. Given that the commissioner is, this is very late, right? You're starting school with what, 3 weeks left, less for the seniors. It's really quite something. Is this sort of putting it out there as a way to look at what's going to work in the fall? I know they're not saying that, but are we floating ways of getting back in September or late August or September?
Yeah, I mean, I think my opinion on this, and I think the commissioner's been relatively open about this, is that, you're really, and this, I believe these changes, this is my opinion, I believe these changes have been really geared towards those districts, many districts, some very close to us, which have been fully remote for, a year, okay? And having them, pushing them, to really give this a shot. So it's less of the transition isn't as new in the fall. I think one thing we experienced, and the reason we stayed in and done such a great job, is in September we learned we could do it. And in November we learned more that we could do it even with more cases. Okay, and other folks have never experienced that. So I believe that there is that's part of the motivation here is to learn how to do it, know how to do it, realize we can do it. We've known this obviously. I don't know if I would make myself make a jump towards this is how it'll be in the fall. I think the 3 feet is difficult for a lot of schools, especially difficult for all schools, as you've heard. It's limiting, in a variety of ways. So I don't know if that's going to stay, but I do agree that part of getting this done now is to make sure people know we can do it in the fall.
Okay. Thank you. It just feels personally, it feels very late for the high school, right? Especially for our district who's been in person. So it's.
Yeah, it feels late for us for that reason. Like it may feel very late in a very different reason, in a very different way for other folks, So,
right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Well, James, thank you very much. And I can't tell you how appreciative we all are of the job that you've done and the work you've put in to make it all work this year for the students at Gloucester High School. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you again. Have a good night.
Thank you, James. And I will say this, I'll say, if there's ever been an example of someone or a team in this case, working a problem, I think that's Principal Cook and his team. We aren't getting to May 17th because they started last week. As James said, been at this since March and before, constantly working it. And the result is, as everyone said, going to be some really good days for all our high school students. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so we get to turn towards some very, very great work on teaching and learning and instruction, in this case, math instruction in our elementary schools, and have a fabulous team here. I'll hand things off to Mr. Bach to not only introduce things, but also lead us through some, I think, what will be very helpful to the committee and to the public around our math curriculum at the elementary schools. So welcome, folks. Good to see everybody.
Great, thank you. And if we could have members of the math leadership team, if you're comfortable, if you don't mind turning on your cameras, you don't have to. But it'd be great if school committee could see you and see who is part of this incredible team. This is such a great, I love these moments because I get to do my favorite thing, which is to brag absolutely honestly about the incredible work that's going on in the district. I'm not sure there are many districts that can say that their major textbook adoptions are often initiated by teachers, researched by teachers, communicated to teachers, and then followed up, supported, modified, through this incredible cycle that we go through. And that's, I think that's a rare thing. Sometimes they're driven by one or two people at a district level. This is a real collective effort that has just been so helpful for the district. It's really powerful for the district. And I know it's been really good for these math leaders, colleagues across the schools. if you remember, some of you will remember in about 2013, we embarked on a search for a new math program, and a team of over 20 teachers at that time did an exhaustive search. I remember a really great day over in the East Gloucester auditorium, I think it was, where the team presented their findings. I was sitting in the audience watching. It was really powerful, and they shared with their colleagues exactly why they selected the program and the kinds of things to expect. Since that time, they've done a lot of work to keep that 2014 edition viable, and to adjust it, and to continually fine tune it. They realized that when we got to 2020, that a couple factors were coming to play. One is that as with any program, sometimes the number of modification gets to the point where it's good to upgrade to a new edition, which presented itself as an option in 2020. The thing that I'm most impressed about is not only did they do incredible piloting work again, which I'm going to share tonight, is that they made that decision in the middle of COVID. They decided to go ahead and to take that leap and pursue a full-fledged exhaustive pilot during this year, knowing what was ahead of us, or guessing what was ahead of us. And there was no arm twisting. The group just got together and decided they were going to do it. That not just because, but that in spite of the challenges, that they felt strongly enough about looking into the new edition of our math program, and that they were going to do it anyway. And they've done an incredible job, and they've done it really independently. Janet Donovan and Kristen Parsons, the two elementary math coaches, have met throughout the year with this group, and they are going to do the rest of the talking, except for maybe a few moments where I chime in if I can't help myself. But they should tell their story, because they've been doing this on their own this year, and I'm looking forward to hearing them for the first time as well, some of them reporting out their firsthand experiences. I think this is important for our school committee and for the public, because the new edition is a significant financial investment that the school committee, I think it's really important to be knowledgeable about the kinds of things that, I know you trust us to put forward good products, but it's even more important to hear the teachers who have done the work researching and investigating to share their findings. It's good for the public to hear. And hopefully they're also going to teach us a little bit tonight about some of the changes and some of the ways that it impacts instruction. And I think that's an important thing to come away with, as well as a deeper understanding of what does math instruction look like and how is it evolving in our elementary schools. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to, first of all, thank this very large, very dedicated group for doing what they've done this year, and also for showing up tonight to share their findings. And Janet or Kristen, would you like to take it from there?
I would be happy to. Kristen and I are going to give a little background, and then the math leaders will chime in along the way, and then answer specific questions at the end. So Kristen, if you want to start the PowerPoint.
I do not have sharing rights.
Okay.
I wondered if that might be the case. Ben, I did ask Janet if she would share the
might be able to just
presentation. You might be able to share, or Maria, is it possible?
Yep. Maria can probably give.
Kristen.
Kristen Parsons.
Oh, Kristen. Maria, could you give Kristen Parsons the power to share her screen, please?
I don't hear Maria.
All right, I can.
Oh, sorry, who needs to share?
Oh,
Kristen Parsons, please.
Okay. Okay, she should be all set.
Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
So we will begin. I may sound a little repetitive of Mr. Bach, but that's all good. We're going to begin by introducing our pilot team. And again, last fall, when Kristen and I heard that some of the things are going to be outdated in Math in Focus, and then in the spring during COVID, we went to math leaders. I was extremely apprehensive to ask teachers to take on one more thing and to pilot this new program, and thought, we don't have to do it this year. We could wait another year, but the level of commitment and the enthusiasm is like no other from this team. It's very gratifying, and I feel very grateful to work with these teachers. So I want to start off by recognizing who they are. So in kindergarten, we have Jacqueline Baldessano from Plum Cove and Kim Lacoste from West Parish, and she's also been the remote kindergarten teacher this year. In grade 1, we have Jody Parisi from West Parish and Margaret Ouellette from Veterans. Grade 2, Robin Reeder from East Gloucester, Mary Hossman from Veterans, Amy Clayton from Veterans, who is a special education representative on our team. At grade 3, we have Christine Kessick from East Gloucester School. Grade 4, Herbie Johnson from Plum Cove, Karen Favaloro from Veterans, Carol Hedges from Beeman. And grade 5, Krista Houghton from East Gloucester, Grace Scola from Plum, Lynn Monroe and Lacey Alves from West Parish, and Beth Lafata from Beeman. And Shannon Borowski is new to our team this year. She had a late grade level change, so she did not pilot this year, but she's been an extremely valued member this year, participating in all of our meetings and discussions, and she's here with us tonight. So as you can see, we have all 5 elementary schools represented and all grade levels represented during this pilot. A little timeline about how far we have come. Mr. Bach went over some of this. And yes, in 2013, we had a large team of over 20 teachers piloting. And I have to tell you, in my over 30 years in Gloucester Public Schools, this was one of my most positive professional experiences. We felt so empowered and valued. It was a dynamic group. And it truly was a teacher-led decision to go with Math in Focus. There was nobody influencing us to go in any other way than what we thought was best for Gloucester Public Schools. In the spring of 2014, we did indeed adopt Math in Focus. One of the huge factors in our success has been our math leadership team. So this is a group of individuals that we meet once a month. And again, we have all 5 elementary buildings represented, and we have all grade levels represented. And we meet, we work on different projects, we work on parent outreach, we work on building issues and giving building-based support. So it's a positive group that relays a positive message about math and math instruction and best practice.
And professional development as well.
Yes.
This group is very involved in the district level professional development.
Yes, we certainly are. Thank you for that. So then, as I said earlier, and Greg mentioned that in 2020, we were informed that the online platform for Math in Focus, which is called Think Central, was no longer going to be supported It actually ends at the end of this school year. And so we went forward in the spring to ask them if they would be interested in piloting. And sure enough, and thankfully they did. And so we're here tonight to share the results of that pilot with you. But to go back a little bit to our choice of Math in Focus, why Math in Focus? Well, one of the things was the Singapore's math framework. We know that when international math comparisons are done, we know that Singapore is at the top. And Math in Focus, we found, gave the tools needed to break down concepts and problem solving. In this visual here, you will see the heart of Math in Focus and the heart of Singapore math is problem solving. We want our students problem solvers in real life world problems. And that is at the core of this program, as well as deep thinking and deep understanding and the use of bar models or model drawing. We also were very compelled and drawn into the emphasis on the attitudes in math, that all children can learn higher math, and that we all believe that. You know, in the US, we've tended to give students permission to denounce math ability early on. And culturally, we all need to work to change that, because research has shown us that those attitudes actually affect math achievement. And so that continues to be a work in progress, but it's a wonderful shift in the teaching of mathematics. Yeah, and these are what we refer to as the non-negotiables in Math in Focus. Strong emphasis in our program. You'll hear a lot, we refer a lot and say the CPA, or concrete, pictorial, abstract. So this is something that is in all lessons and all new concepts begin at the concrete level. And what does that mean? That means that there is something tangible in the hands of our students. It could be counters, it could be base 10 blocks, it could be 10 frames, it could be tiles, it could be fraction bars, but every math concept begins with something concrete, something that students can explore, build, ask questions about, be curious about, and really see it and hold it. And that has been a huge shift in math instruction, and one that has been greatly successful.
And the district's been extremely supportive in making sure that we have plenty of manipulatives available and the teachers have them so that students have access to them at all times.
So what does that really mean? So believe it or not, 2 + 3 = 5 is very abstract for our students. If we had 2 teddy bears plus 3 teddy bears, and they're actually holding those teddy bears in their hands, they can see that that's 5. That's that concrete level. The pictorial level is when they can draw it. They can draw the 2 teddy bears and the 3 teddy bears, and they see that it's 5 teddy bears. And something really abstract is just 2 + 3 = 5. You know, sometimes we feel really proud when students, know certain facts and certain information in math, but if you ask them to draw a picture, they can't. They don't really have an understanding of it, and it doesn't really make sense, but they can mimic back what we think we want them to hear. So that's been a huge positive shift. And all of that work at the concrete level leads to visualization. So visualization isn't something that we specifically teach, but it's something that comes from all of that work at the concrete level, that they can actually begin to create pictures to have deep understanding. And we know if they can't draw a picture of something, then they need to go back to that concrete level. All lessons in math and thinking should make students think. They should begin with a task that begins with develops understanding. And if a student can answer easily, then it wasn't a problem-solving situation. Students should leave lessons tired from thinking, but inspired to learn more. So in the next slide, it's a second grade problem of the lesson that may be embedded at the beginning, may be embedded somewhere along the way, where the teacher may present this problem and just have the students be thinking about it, not yelling out, not asking, but just thinking about it throughout the lesson. Richard wants to exchange all his coins in his piggy bank for $1 bills. He has 30 dimes and 12 quarters. How many $1 bills will he get in exchange for his coins? So some students, many students will need to go and count out those 30 dimes and those 12 quarters, and we have money in the classroom, not real money, but play money. Some students will be able to draw a picture. And again, this really speaks to the thinking and getting at that deeper understanding, which will lead to gradual release, which is we want our students to master the concepts and materials that we're teaching, understanding that learning a new concept takes time. So most lessons are more than one day, so that we're giving students time to add to what they already know, to again, to build that deeper understanding. And I've spoken to our major shifts in teaching, not all of them, but our major ones. Again, the attitudes in our math classrooms. Our math classrooms now actually have shifted from the procedures, where students know to do A, B, and C, to where they're really thinking about what they're being asked to do. This productive struggle. Again, if it's too easy, then they haven't been experiencing problem solving. Unfortunately, in the past, students have been given the false impression, that if they are done first and they complete the task fast, that they're the smartest and the best. And we've really shifted away from that, because that's absolutely not true. With a growth mindset, all students can learn math at a higher level. And some need different supports along the way. And the culture in math classrooms now are about mistakes. When I was in the classroom, I always called them happy mistakes. And they are expected in a math classroom. They're respected. So it's okay to make mistakes because it's part of the learning process. They're inspected. We look at them. We see where the breakdown is. We ask students to come up and share their happy mistakes, because we all learn from that. And then of course, they're corrected, because we do want the correct answers. But we want them to figure that out and guide them through that. Here's another example of that CPA, so very critical in this program. You'll see at the concrete level, they actually have 2 blocks plus 1 block. At the pictorial level, they're drawing that. Actually looks like a bar model. And then the abstract is the 2 + 1 = 3. So manipulatives are a part of daily practice and are available for all students in the classroom. Bar modeling is one strategy that is used. It is a great entry point for problem solving. So, when most of us, and I'm probably older than many, learned math, you read a story problem and you just kind of had to figure out where to go from there. A bar model is, again, it's a visual representation that helps them know where to start, where to begin thinking about the problem.
And Janet, if you don't mind, I'd like to
Please do, yes.
pick back on here on bar modeling. I am Lynn Monroe. I teach 5th grade at West Parish. And I've been teaching for a long time. And years ago, we were told to teach critical thinking. But never were really quite know where to go with that. When bar modeling and the math and focus, the Singapore math came in, it's when critical thinking was being taught. That bar modeling is more than just drawing pictures. It's the first step leading to algebra and leading to the higher maths. And the students are doing it at the younger age. And by the time they get into 5th grade, they already have a background from it. And they are doing algebra problems, but they don't understand that they are. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to also be on the search committee for the middle school because while our school was being built, the 5th grade was over at O'Malley. And I was asked to be on the O'Malley search team for their math program. And the big ideas piggybacks along with this. And many of the 6th grade teachers said this bar modeling is great. The kids are coming up and knowing how to solve problems where they didn't before. So it has been a strong growth in our math system, just this small part of Math in Focus.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn. You want me to go on from here?
So the next.
So we have a few examples of bar modeling to show you. Students first begin to work with bar models at grade 2. So a 2nd grader may encounter a problem like this one, where there are granola bars. And initially they'll begin to work at the concrete level where they're going to be using those connecting cubes. And then we would move to the pictorial where they're going to be drawing the bar model, and you can see how it really does transition from the connecting cubes to the bar in a very natural way. And ultimately we land with the computation or the numbers there, which are the most abstract. So you can see a simple problem, or we may think as a simple problem that is presented that way in the 2nd grade. 3rd graders, it gets a little more challenging because they begin to dive into fractions. And so here there is a problem which would be finding 2/3 of 15. And if you were to present the problem 2/3 of 15 to a 3rd grader, it likely would be very difficult, extremely abstract, and not have a lot of meaning. But here, given it presented in a real world problem, you can see they have the actual granola bars over there on the side for the concrete model. The pictorial or the bar model is there as well. And ultimately they would give their answer in the number form or the most abstract, but all of the supports are here for students for that CPA model to really understand what is happening. And bar modeling has really allowed students to make sense of and understand the numbers and what is actually happening. What are they solving for and why?
It's a game changer, really, because really what we have learned is that the reason why previously so many students have struggled in math is their number sense, their sense of numbers. Like we jumped too quickly to the abstract.
Yep.
You know, so just because they could tell us 3 times 7 equals 21 didn't really mean that they had any knowledge of what that was meant behind it.
What it looked like.
That was 3 groups of 7. And so again, we connect this to real world problems and the concrete so that it makes sense to kids. Because if it doesn't make sense to kids, they're not going to internalize that, have a deep understanding of it, and reach that higher level achievement that we are expecting and know that all students can master.
And these 2nd and 3rd grade problems really build on and help build a foundation for that advanced work that Lynn was talking about that they're doing in the 5th grade. Some of the 5th grade questions are quite difficult, and I'm thinking without bar modeling, I wouldn't even know where to start or how to enter the problem. Next is just how we've made progress over the last 6 years at the Mcas or state level. I don't know if Greg wants to pop in here or I can
Yeah, I don't mind. I just wanted to note that one of the things that has been a little bit frustrating is the interruption in the assessment routine. We left off with 2019 Mcas results. Now these are combined ELA through math. So this is like a very high level look at how our elementary schools in ELA and math have fared as a percentile rank in the state since 2013. And that's, I think you've seen this one before, 39 to 58th percentile in the state. When we go probably to the next slide, it's looks just at mathematics. And we took the last indicator we did have from Mcas, which was 2019. And this is we chose to just share fifth grade because it is the final grade of the sequence for elementary school. And that is going the direction we would want to see it go, that those who are exceeding or meeting, that is stair stepping up really nicely, and correspondingly on the other side going down. So just wanted to give a quick view of math only by the fifth grade. And what do we have next? I think there was
the next one is Easy CBM.
CBM.
So
And
shifting from MCAS to local.
Yeah, shifting to local assessments. These were the last Easy CBM measurements. Now, we'd love to be able to show you more consistently over the last couple of years, but between COVID interruptions, end of year 2020 interruptions on any kind of assessment, as well as the fact that, as you know from an earlier presentation this year, we shifted to a whole new, very comprehensive assessment system, the STAR 360 assessment system, which you had an extensive presentation for the school committee about. So
this was the end of the year data that we had most recent.
Yeah, this was the precursor to STAR 360. Just to give it, these are just snapshots of where we had been getting to with improving math proficiency.
All the great growth we're making.
Yeah, we're looking forward to sharing end of year STAR data, although really what we want to share with you is next year, after what we hope will be a much more normal year and a normal progression. We'll be able to share a couple years worth of STAR data.
Maybe with a new edition.
Possibly with a new edition.
So let's see. Let's highlight the changes to the new edition because that's really what we're here to focus on tonight. So we do know that we were moving in the right direction, making positive changes, and we're hoping that with a new edition, we can continue with that growth. So the Math in Focus 2020 edition does still keep the emphasis on that math framework that Janet was speaking about, with problem solving at the heart of it. There's been some adjustments on the teacher side to the scope and sequence, the alignment of where the content might be introduced. There's been major tech changes, huge improvements to their online platform that they call ED. And there'll be a lot more to come on that, hopefully from our math leadership team. And then there are lots of more detailed reporting where we hope that we can do some long-term planning and look at some more alignment. There more information on domains and standards and how students are performing at that item and standard level. So hopefully we can dive deeper into that with this new platform. And on the student side, there are little changes, but the changes that they made, I think, are extremely helpful. All of the content is presented now in one book. They used to have to toggle between a hardcover for lessons and introductions and then to a workbook. So if you're ever in a first grade class and you ask students to take out a hardcover and turn to page 67 and then take out your workbook and find page 42, you know, that might take you 7 minutes to find those pages, but it's all in one color soft cover book now. So they do not have to toggle between, and the examples and the work and lesson introduction is right there for students to look back to if they need a reteach or a refresher, either that day or maybe they're on day 2 or 3 of a concept. In addition to that, there's now a book of extra practice in homework as the title, and that just allows for the opportunity for more repetition and practice in the classroom or at home, or however teachers may need to differentiate for a student. So positive changes for both the teacher and the student, I think. And then this is just a quick overview of all that a chapter does have available for teachers. So there are different opportunities for review and preview at the chapter opener. Within the lesson and the engage, learn, try, there are again opportunities for practice through Let's Explore, games, independent work, and various opportunities for teachers to, again, differentiate, whether it be for reteach or that challenge and enrichment. They have included now a math journal. Put on your thinking cap is something that remains. That's been something that teachers have had a lot of fun with. They've used it very differently in different classrooms, but those are higher level math problems that come at the end of the chapter, at the end of all the teaching. And so some teachers make a really big deal of it, and they actually put on caps that they've made, and they, the kids report that these caps make them, stronger mathematicians, and they perform so much better when they have these hats on. So they do it as a whole class, as a fun challenge day. Other teachers have it done in small groups where it's either teacher supported or independent. Again, teachers have the option to differentiate, but it is really a time where they can have fun while working hard. Back to that, again, problem solving being at the heart. And I know teachers love that, put on your thinking cap. And then something new is various options for assessment. So we have different ways to wrap up the review, the chapter test, or what used to be called the test prep, and then this growth measure. And we've had some teachers this year really taking the risk and giving them all a try. So offering, a couple for each chapter just to see effectiveness or how the reporting might differ. And you will hear from teachers on that, the chapter review and the growth measure. But again, lots of options and opportunity for teachers to decide within the content of the chapter and the lessons what fits their classroom and their students' needs. But the best change of all really is Ed, your friend in learning, this new amazing digital platform.
And this is where we'll open it up to our pilot teachers.
Yeah, there's so much here that hopefully our team can just talk to you all about what they've been exploring. And between the all of them, they have become experts in different areas. So they'll be able to talk to you about what they've dug deeper into, what they're really excited about, what they can't wait to explore more. But there's so much to unpack here that hopefully they will
pop right up. So we divided it into 3 sections: planning and presentation, and what's offered on Ed, differentiation and
for the teacher side of things, the planning on the teacher's end.
And then the assessments. So who would like to speak to one of these?
Could I pop in first?
Yay, yes,
I probably
yay.
should have said something in the slide prior, but
you want me to go back?
No, that's okay. I can just say it really quickly. You talked about the scope and sequence of the new edition, and I teach 2nd grade at East Gloucester, and I have found the new version much easier to present to my students. It seems to flow nicer, the way they move the chapters around. They're not in the same order as our previous edition. And the way they set up their lessons are much easier to read in the teacher's manual than the older teacher's manual. So if we do decide to adopt this, I think the teachers who have already working with this, it's going to be very easy to learn it and move quickly with it if we do adopt it.
Thanks, Robin.
Thanks, Robin.
Anybody want to speak to the learn videos or any of the lesson planning, any of that planning and presentation piece?
I will. I am a kindergarten teacher at Plum Cove Elementary, and trying to rearrange how I present my curriculum, especially my math curriculum, which has a lot of hands-on components, was a challenge for me this year. But Ed, your friend, has saved me this year. And to be honest, the children absolutely love it. It gives me the opportunity to do all my planning from home. It also allows me to present everything they find in their book. I can put up on the screen and do it with them in an interactive way. And it also helps them build their independence and check their own work. So Ed, your friend has definitely been something that has been very successful in my classroom. And I honestly couldn't imagine not having it now that we've had it.
Thank you.
So I'll speak to the Learn videos. I think there are, for not every lesson, but for various lessons within a chapter, there are videos that the Math in Focus provides that you can show little short clips that are student friendly, where they make the content come to life in a kid-friendly videos that you can show to the students. The editable lesson planning, which is what Jacqueline was talking about, you can change the order of the way things are presented. They can tie in workbook pages, extra practice pages, any assessments or games, anything they want to assign. They can move it all around and put it in their own customized, personalized plan book, if you will, and it saves it that way so that if it felt successful this year, you will have it right there, ready to use again for next year. Okay, I'm at lesson 2.7. Oh yeah, I loved that game. Oh, here it is right here, tied with it. So you don't have to, go looking for it.
And in the time of, especially COVID, the virtual manipulatives have been a really valuable resource. Karen, I think you use those.
Yeah, I was going to say I use those in class. There was some great, I teach fourth grade at Vets, and there's some great like fraction bars and different things that the kids could use virtually on the computer. I also used the games. There was a couple of fraction games, and there was a little game the kids loved in class where it was a cat going to a bowl to eat food, and it would have a division problem, multiplication problem they had to solve, and it was just a fun engagement for them and kept their attention. But it was also working on the skills that we had just learned, and so they sort of liked it too. You could save it and then go back to it, and it was just another fun way to learn those skills.
Awesome, thank you.
Janet, I actually used the virtual manipulatives today with my students who were talking about measurement, and it had a really cool slide where they could choose a comb, a water bottle, or a television to measure. And then they had to decide what manipulative we wanted to use as our unit of measure. So they could use a craft stick, a pencil, or a paper clip. And it was so easy to show them how difficult it would be to measure the television with the paper clips versus a larger unit of measurement. So that really honed in on the concept that they were going for with the differentiated units of measurement. And during these trying times, it's difficult to hand out pencils and paper clips and craft sticks to all of the students and then collect them at the end of the day and, worry about sanitizing everything and all of that stuff. So this is actually the first year I've used them, and the students really, they think they're fun. And, first graders think anything like that where they can move things around is cool. So leading also with the games, as far as being in such trying times this year, it was really nice when we had the remote hour to give them something that was hands-on and really honing in on that, the CPA philosophy, where we could send games home for them to play at home with their parents, kept the parents involved in what we were covering in class and the concepts that we were covering. And it gave them the opportunity to actually play the game, because of course in class we couldn't do that with the students, social distanced. And I know next we're talking about the improved alignment and pacing. And just to jump in really quickly on that, I couldn't be happier with going from 19 chapters down to 13. And I know, Margaret, you feel the same way as I do about this. in first grade, it was really difficult when you were jumping around. 19 chapters is a lot to cover. So having 13, they took out a lot of the fluff and they stuck with really the meat of the sandwich, and it's meaningful, they're purposeful. The flow is fantastic. After a couple chapters of number sense, they throw in something fun like time or money, measurement we're in right now. Another one is data. So there's a very good break from the crunching of the numbers and the really deep thinking. And we go into something that's applicable in their real life. And I've had so many parents and students comment to me about how they're using what they're learning to apply to their real life situations. So to hear that is always awesome. And as a teacher, being able to really dive into those concepts and explore them thoroughly, because we don't have that crunch of pacing and feeling like we're constantly on this timeline. It allows for a lot more fun exploration, student, involvement with interactions and discussions, maybe giving them opportunity to share a different way that they may have solved a problem or come to a conclusion about something, and having those meaningful discussions, keeping everyone engaged. And having the opportunities for that has been a true blessing. One of the best benefits of the new version of this program.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Can I just add that? I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Grace. I just want to make sure that we keep an eye on the time a little bit.
Okay.
And Jody, that was terrific, because one of the key questions that is important to consider is alignment and pacing. And we spent a lot of time adjusting the pacing, but also one of the big questions is, as we look at eventual return of Mcas and making sure that we're aligned to the state frameworks, I would love it if we could pick up on that and maybe just hear a little bit more about revisions too, and your sense of alignment and hitting those essential pieces.
That will be natural next.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that it's really more condensed, and I really feel, even though this isn't a normal year, that I'm not far off from where I normally would be. And I think it had to do with the condensed version that we're working with. And it was a great change that they made.
I'd like to add, sorry, I wanted to add about the improvement also, because in fourth grade, we've really kind of struggled over the past few years. The old
grade had it the most difficult, I think.
Yeah, the old program required a lot of supplementing and moving things around for us, and especially in the fraction unit, which traditionally is a significant part of Mcas. And we always had to find other resources to supplement and make sure across the district it was a level playing field and everyone was using the same information. And with this addition, it's amazing. The standards are better grouped together. They're more cohesive. We're covering them comprehensively, I think, and there are more real world problems. So I think for fourth grade, it's a game changer.
And yeah, I can agree too with what Grace said and Herbie said, that even with COVID too, I have kept up with the pace and been able to get there where I need to be in the short amount of time that we've had.
To touch on the alignment piece, I know that we've worked really hard over the years to try to slightly adjust things from grade to grade, and responsibility may fall in different areas. We knew when we adopted this version of the program, the original version, that it wasn't necessarily aligned to the Common Core standards as far as grade level alignment and, teaching different things in different grades. So the fact that this new version of the program is much better aligned, it feels like a complete, thorough, it's a very concise program that's going to cover everything that I need to cover as a first grade teacher. Not a lot of the extra stuff where you have to say, oh, okay, should I get to this or should I not? There's none of that judgment call, which was leading to a lack of fidelity among different teachers at different schools at different grade levels. So there were things that were inadvertently left out or sort of passed along to a different grade. So this is so much easier to follow. Like I said, it's very concise, manageable, and I feel as though it aligns better to the standards now that there's a new version of the program. When we adopted the original one, I don't think the state standards had, the new Common Core standards had been out for very long. So not a lot of programs had aligned themselves to that. And now that they've had time to do that, it's very obvious that they tried hard to do that.
I think if we take a look next at the growth measure and then that online review, that is where it's going to allow us to do some of that deeper dive and that deeper looking at the alignment between math and focus and perhaps MCAS performance or even STAR. So we've had teachers. Yeah, we can go to that. So teachers have been using the growth measure and the online chapter review, which are different than, you know, the traditional end of the chapter test. So Herbie Johnson was kind enough to share some of her data and will speak to us about what we can see with a chapter review. So you can.
Yeah, this is one of the things I'm super excited about. There's a chapter review that you give the students before the chapter test. And it's an online enhancement that is extremely useful. It allows the teacher here. Yeah, it allows the teacher to have the students take it online, and it provides the teacher with like immediate actionable information that you can use to go back and reteach the standards that the kids didn't truly understand. So what you can see here is it'll give you in that first section the number of students that scored above level on the review, on level, below level. No data means that they were absent. It gives you an item analysis of the top items that the kids struggled with the most. And you can click on that, and you'll see in another slide, you can click on each one of those and it'll hyperlink to the exact question so you can have a discussion with the class. I'll talk about that a little bit more. And it also gives you the assessed standards, and you can see the proficiency for each one of those, and you can delve deeper into each one of those. So I just absolutely love this. I've used it at the end of every single chapter.
So a teacher has the option to focus on either item and questions from the chapter or take it and step back and look at the actual state standards. So the next page will show you either if you click on the orange arrow or the green arrow, what you would see.
Yep. So if you clicked on the orange, here's an item analysis, item number 38. A significant portion of the students had difficulty with that. You could immediately put that up on your screen, have a classroom discussion on what did they not understand, and you could, provide quick feedback to your students.
And just to note that does look a lot like the MCAS question in there. But again, so teachers can take this information and spend time going as deep as they want to. So thank you, Herbie.
Yeah, and these last two slides, when Kristen and Janet shared them with me, those last two, I got really excited because it reminded me of when we used to dive into MCAS and take a look at the item analysis and follow the questions and really take a look at the text of the questions. This allows us to not be to do that right in the program that we're using. And I think this is going to be an extremely powerful tool.
Me too. Yeah. The top row is all the students. And I love the fact that you can see individually below that how much time they spent on it. And then you can look at each item and it gives you the standard. And then you can click on it and you can dive into it as deeply as you want to. You can look at it on an aggregate level for the whole class, an individual level on just particular students that might be struggling. And I just think it's a really powerful tool that I'm super excited about.
Thank you, Herbie.
Sure.
We have two more slides. I know we're running out of time, but a few people did want to speak. And the two slides are just some open-ended question. What program improvements do you think will be the most impactful on student learning here in Gloucester? And if there is someone who hasn't spoke that would like to speak to that, or what are you most excited about in the updated version?
Can I speak about the growth measure?
Please do, Grace, yes.
So there is another assessment that is available to us
online, and it's called the growth measure, and it's a benchmark that's taken in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the year. I feel it's a great another data point for us to look at for students and seeing where they're performing. It informed us whether or not they're at, below, or above grade level. And I did analyze the growth measure with a 360, and there is some correlation with where the students are. I did that the last 2 times I took it with the students took it. The report breaks it down by domains, and then what I could do is I actually could go to the standards in those domains. And when I went to the standards, I could see who didn't do well, and then I could click on something and it would bring me to resources that I could use with the students to help them in small groups or large groups. So I thought that was really beneficial to use this year. And I have to thank Herbie for introducing me to the other test, because I used that the last test. And what I did was all the questions that the students, I got like the students who grew at like 80% or below. I looked at each of those questions with the students and I put them on the board and we talked about them and we made it a whole group lesson before we went to the final test. So it was a great review, and I have to thank Herbie for turning me on to that, because I did that the last unit test. So that was great. So I'm impressed by the growth measure test as well. Thank you.
And if I can just step in, representing the special ed department. One of the things that's been really great is that it's so much more kid friendly. The language of it is not as, there's not a lot of language in it, so that the kids, a lot of my kids are at that concrete level and may stay at that concrete level throughout their years in school. So having those virtual manipulatives was really important for us, especially during the remote and that extra hour that we had to do. I work very closely with the second grade teams.
I think we lost you, Amy. And I know, Margaret, you wanted
Yeah,
to.
I was just gonna, I was waiting for Amy to finish, but I guess I can piggyback off of what she was saying. She was saying that it helps her students with special needs because it cuts out a lot of the language. I found this year that my English language learners have benefited greatly from the reduced amount of language. I can actually figure out by working with them and talking with them now, if they're struggling with understanding, like if they have a weak number sense, is it a concept they're misunderstanding, or are they getting tripped up with the language? They've condensed all the activities and they've taken the fluff, like Jody had said, out of it, but the language is still, high vocabulary for math, but now it's clear, like they understand what we're asking them to do. They have the, as Amy was saying, they have the pictorial, the abstract, whichever level that they're at, it helps them understand it, but it also, as a teacher, it helps me understand where they're struggling, so I can turn around and target instruction for their needs. And this year I have my English language learners are doing very well as my students with special needs. They're all doing very well this year, and something that I did worry about because of all the lack of instruction that they missed at the end of last year. And honestly, we talked about pace. I'm right on pace, even though we missed so much school last year. I thought they'd come in with less, and they're doing very well with the new updated version.
That's awesome. Thank you.
This is, that's probably one of the best ones to finish on, is the reminder that despite the less time that you've had on math, that many of you are feeling like you're at or right on target. That's really good. But also, I'm really happy that you talked about our English learners, and that Amy had a chance to talk about our special education students, because it's an area that we've seen some real challenges this year, and the fact that you're able to continue teaching at such a high level is really heartening to hear. I think just in the interest of time, I know that this group has a lot to share and could share much more. I think it'd be great if we wrapped up with a huge thank you to this dedicated team of math leaders who have worked through a really challenging year to give something so important, such a close and careful investigation that goes so far to being able to make a recommendation actually work for our district and for all of the teachers who this will be new to. I mean, there's going to be more things that they're challenged with next year as we, resume and normally, and to hear things presented so clearly from you and have you being the champions for something like this is incredibly powerful. And if the school committee has any questions that you'd like to ask while we have so many experts with us, this is a great moment.
Samantha?
Thank you, everyone, for your time and for all the really helpful information. I'm curious if you have a sense on how this is being received by parents. It seems like it's a pretty accessible approach for parents, especially for parents who might not have benefited from a less abstract approach to math. So I'm just curious, do parents seem like do they seem happy, and do they seem like they're able to sort of support their students at home this approach?
I could speak to that. I'm a second grade teacher at Veterans Memorial School, and the workbook pages that I send home, I tell the children to sit down and teach their parents like how they did it. And we have Class Dojo, and I get a lot of comments like, I never thought about it that way. And it's second grade, and just the workbook pages are so self-explanatory for the parents to figure out where we're coming about with the problems. And yeah, I've had really great reviews from parents who have sat down and actually worked with their kids on it.
Kathy?
Thank you.
I don't have any questions. I'm just thrilled to have this presentation tonight. I know when we invested in the curriculum years ago, how important it was to shift our math curriculum because it just wasn't working. And you could hear the frustration and the whole different approach to how math was being taught across the district. And this was really, I believe, a real game-changing investment, both in the curriculum and in your teaching practice, and giving you the tools you needed. I want to thank publicly Janet Donovan, who unfortunately is retiring this year, but I know she was our first math coach, and I appreciate her blazing the trail for Kristen, because I just think having coaches help and support and do all the work that you guys do as a group on a particular subject is really powerful. And I also, you're welcome. And I hope you've seen that we do have some math coaches in the budget for the one that we have proposed. And I know we've been having that request for at least the past 2 years. It was in our approved budget this past year before COVID. And of course, that was one of those that we had to pull back on, not knowing what this year would bring. So hopefully, I'm very optimistic that that will pass within the budget and strengthen and provide you with even more resources to help in the math area.
That's great news.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. Well, I'd like to thank you all for the time and effort that you've put into this project, and it's really exciting to see your excitement of the new tools that you have available, and it translates into success for kids, and that's what we're here for. So I thank you all for the work you've put in, and wonderful job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I can just add one
Sure.
thing before we go, I just wanted to say thank you very much to the team here. Just so impressive. And I just am so appreciative of the attention to detail, the persistence on working with kids, the continuing work to identify new tools that help you as teachers and experts and coaches support our children. And then most of all, you are such an embodiment of a really, I think, an important value that we have, which is about working together to get better. And just are fantastic. Just a great example of that, working together in your schools and your teams across schools, across the district over many years. It's just a fantastic example to the whole district, but the whole community about how we work together to get better in service of our students and our colleagues. So just really appreciate it tonight. All the effort, not just tonight for being here tonight, of course, but everything that goes into all the work you do. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks for coming. We'll move on to our next agenda item, which is committee reports, which there are none of. So we'll move on to action items, and we have a budget to pass. The budget has not changed since it was presented at our previous meeting. Is that correct?
That's right. I can show, you have in your packet the summary materials. I'm welcome, or I am happy to show them on the screen if that's helpful to the committee members. What would be helpful?
We have seen it. Is everybody familiar with the budget? Laura?
I'm familiar. I'm looking forward to my packet, but there was a couple of new circles, and I didn't know if those were new circles from Gary on the budget, or if those were the ones that were there last time.
No, those are all the same. Nothing has changed since we presented 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Those modifications really tied primarily to the adjustment in increases on special education costs and decrease in health costs, and then some other minor adjustments.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. That's exactly right.
Okay. All right, and if that's the case, then we can move on to voting the budget. And I'll make a motion that we approve the FY 2022 proposed budget in the amount of $45,638,897 as presented to the school committee at the public hearing on April 7th, 2021.
Can I,
Sorry, Gary.
yeah, I like to just say this was what was presented at the April 14th meeting, which was last meeting, not at the public hearing. There was a change from the public hearing.
That's right.
And so presented at April 12th BNF and then April 14th school committee meeting.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay. So it is slightly different than the budget that was presented at the public hearing, but it is the same as the one that was presented at our last school committee meeting.
And I seconded it already.
Right, and those were only, there was no bottom line change. It was just moving some, our healthcare costs had come in a little bit lower, but our special education costs, as always, had gone up a little. And there we are, fortunately with the same number. So we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Maria, could we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Favazza,
Yes.
Chairman Pope,
Yes.
Ms. Prince,
Yes.
Mayor Taken,
Present.
Ms. Watson,
Yes.
Ms. Weason,
Yes.
and Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
It carries 6 in favor, 1 present, and we'll move on to the next item, which is to approve the budget to be sent to the administration for their consideration. And so it's a question of approving this budget for submission to them, approving the submission of this budget to the mayor. And I so move.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Can I just ask, when is the meeting with the BNF?
27th.
Yeah, 27th of May. Sorry, Jonathan, you're right. 27th of May.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's a ways off. But I don't know, maybe the mayor can tell us when she'll be presenting the budget to the, her budget to the city council.
May 4th.
May 4th. Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay, Maria, could we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Favazza,
Yes.
Chairman Poe,
Yes.
Ms. Prince,
Yes.
Mayor Taken,
Sure, give it to me.
Ms. Watson,
Yes.
Ms. Weason,
Yes.
and Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. It carries unanimously. And we'll move on to our next item, which is to approve school choice for the, it says here, approve the school choice policy, file FJBB. But in fact, what we're doing is approving school choice for next year. Is that correct?
That's right.
I mean,
Approve the continuing.
Continue.
Participation.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is something that we have to do every year. DESE requires that. If we don't vote not to do it, then we essentially have agreed to accept school choice students. Samantha, question?
Remind me, for this year, did you eventually put sort of a cap on accepting school choice?
Yeah, we essentially closed off school choice in the fall. I don't know, or, really in the summertime. I don't know if there's a specific, I can't remember a specific date, but because of the, because of everything.
And so we have that same flexibility if there was the same sort of limitations.
The policy has limits as far as numbers of kids and availability of room in class, and there's sort of a reserve in there so that we don't go right to the max of any class in case we get kids from our own district moving, people that move to Gloucester, so we have capacity. And the same thing applies to intra-district school choice. And there are dates, there are cutoff dates for each of those, and the cutoff dates for out-of-district school choices is intra-district school choice basically gets first choice. Our own kids get first choice, and then if there's room in classrooms, then we get out-of-district kids. Okay.
In terms of the inter-district, so this the state program, so to speak, we would decide on let me back up. We are already getting requests and applications at the high school and middle school. We don't anticipate any concerns about spaces, that sort of thing. At the elementary schools, we'll wait, as the policy says, until July 1st to do that first selection and registration, because we do expect some elementary schools to be tight on space. But it's good that really K through 12 right now, we're already getting families from other districts who want to come to Gloucester. That's a good sign.
Laura?
Just on that, because that's a very interesting little data point. Do you have any sense, Ben, of if that's more than in previous years?
I don't. This is happening right now, basically, and so no, I haven't had a chance to look in that yet. But
Okay, and I'm also referring back to Samantha's point. Given how tight everything is, we heard James's whole thing. If we're in a similar situation and things are very tight again, we'd be able to sort of pull back if need be.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, are there any more questions? Then do we have a motion?
I move that we approve school choice for the school year 2021 to 2022.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Maria, could we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Favazza,
Yes.
Chairman Poe,
Yes.
Ms. Prince,
Yes.
Mayor Taken,
Yes.
Ms. Watson,
Yes.
Ms. Weason,
Yes.
and Kathy Clancy.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to our last bit of business, which is an update on the East Gloucester Veterans Memorial School Building Committee. As I said earlier, the letter that we received from MSBA confirmed that they are still on board, that they are still, we're still going through the process. The DD submission has been sent to them. They have reviewed it. They have approved of it. And all the other things that they normally do, they're doing and approving. We are in the process of permitting. And tonight, last night at the City Council on the consent agenda was we have to get a variance on the zoning for the height restrictions. And that will go before P&D next week.
I think May.
May 5th. It's May 5th.
May 5th. Okay. And then it'll come back to the full City Council. Joel?
Who represents the city or the building committee at those hearings?
Generally speaking, it's the design team will be there. I mean, everybody will be there, but it's because they are prepared to talk about the actual building and the height.
Yeah. Similar to what happened at Conservation Commission last week.
Right.
Myself and Jonathan both there. Kathy was sort of on deck as member of the building committee. Jonathan gave an introduction to the presentation and sort of framed it. And then in that case, it was the engineers gave the presentation. In this case, it would likely be the designers, but we're always there to sort of frame it and then answer any broader questions related to it.
So at Conservation Commission, we started the process there. And what they did, the action they took was to approve sending it out for a third-party review. And that's a good thing, because they'll bring in an engineering team, an environmental engineering team to assess our plan. And that's good. I'm trying to think what other permitting we'll have to do. I'm not sure. There may be some more, but those are the two things that are active right now. For the process for an environmental review from the state has gone through, has been looked at by the state environmental agency, and it's been determined that we don't need to actually have an environmental study done on the property. So things are moving on. They are preparing the early bid package, and the early bid package is for the things that are figured out, which are the demolition of the school and the site work. Now, a bid package is putting together the documents so that it can be put out for bid when the time is right. Right now, and the work on St. Anne's is ongoing. The Archdiocese, I don't know if you've driven by there, but there's new exterior doors. All of the furniture that we put in there and desks and stuff have been removed so that they can do some repair work on the floors as necessary. There's a number of, Grant will be overseeing the technology installations of all of the equipment, but and there's a lot of stuff that once school closes at Veterans that they'll have to move over. But everything there is on schedule, and it should be available for teachers to start going in and setting up rooms in August.
And I just want to acknowledge Gary for getting all of the furniture that was in St. Anne's out into storage containers. You'll see probably some at O'Malley and at the high school. All the furniture that was put there during this year to make room in classrooms was in St. Anne's, and now it is now in these containers, and hopefully we'll go back into our schools in the fall. But at least it's out of there so all the work can happen.
Yes, with the exception of the humongous conference table that used to be at, is going to the fire department.
No, yeah, right, exactly. A 15-foot solid oak table that we don't need any longer here at the central office, district administration, and we were having trouble getting rid of it, but Mr. Frisch worked with the fire department and they need it, so they are taking it away.
Okay, Melissa.
My guess is they're using that table as a kitchen table, the way they cook in there.
For whatever they want, as long as we don't have it.
Well, don't bite us. They cook very well. They cook good things in there. So my question is, when we moved into St. Anne's for West Parish, we held a meeting. I can't remember. It was maybe joint with the Melissa Cox, because she was Ward 2 representative at the time, to meet with neighbors down there to ask any questions and address concerns. If you remember, Yellow Sub had a lot of concerns, and some of the neighbors did with their driveways. I know Yellow Sub has different owners than when it was West Parish, so I'm wondering if there's any desire to do some sort of outreach to that neighborhood before we move in, because it's been quiet, and now all of a sudden it's going to be extremely busy. So there might be some questions.
Yeah, so it's a sort of a piece of the sort of multi-prong approach about getting the various parties and neighbors sort of up to speed and in the loop and on an ongoing basis. So we had a let me just talk about the multiple avenues we're working on here. A few weeks ago, had a forum for veterans families about the move out and moving to St. Anne's. And then this week had, I joined in with Principal Fusco at a staff meeting about, with all the veteran staff, about moving to St. Anne's and packing and purging and that process and timeline. So that's beginning, in the very beginning stages of that. So we'll need to work out a bunch of details on that. And then on May 18th, we'll have a neighborhood forum for the veterans neighborhood, not the school community, but the neighborhood, about construction and demolition and safety and mitigation and that sort of stuff. So, and then the next step will be then the St. Anne's neighborhood community and working with them. So it's all, the pieces are falling into place as we want to keep, those various communities up to speed, involved, and moving the project forward.
Thank you.
One of the things that we did when West Parish was there was we were able to get Smith Street be one way for half an hour in the morning and half an hour in the evening. I think we need to try to do some sort of assessment of where the kids that will be going to their live, because everybody was bussed in from West Parish, whereas there will be walkers going to St. Anne's. So we need to think about getting some kind of handle on that to see whether we need to make those the Smith Street one way for that period of time.
I just want to also add, in terms of the neighborhood, being aware of what's going on, there'll be an information board that'll be at the site that will get it set up when construction starts, so that if anything bigger is going on, we'll be able to post it. Hopefully we'll work with the ward counselor if there's any other way to reach people more. Hopefully the neighborhood meeting may prompt some kind of a sign up for news or things like that. But we're trying to, do our best to keep people informed so that they understand when there's, like, for instance, they've done some drilling. So so we put up 4 signs. If anybody was driving by or walking by, they might be able to at least see, oh, what are they doing here? And they could tell that they were doing some boring. So
one last piece on the two forums we had with the vets families. We had West Parish parents attend that and speak to the veterans families about their experience at St. Anne's when they were there. And that was very positive, I think very helpful for the veterans families. And then we also had two staff members from West Parish speak to the veterans staff this past Tuesday to help them understand and give them advice and guidance on packing and purging and that sort of stuff and how to do it well. So, and they give them some just fantastic and helpful advice. So always trying to learn from what we did at West Parish in the West Parish project and make sure that that's transferred to the folks in the veterans community.
Any other questions on that? Okay, is there anything else anybody would like to bring up? I do have a couple of quick things. One is, as graduation approaches, traditionally the school committee gives a gift to the top 5% of the graduating seniors. So in the past, we've given, if a new book had been written about Gloucester or something like that. So what we're, but our default is to give them a nice pen and pencil set. So think about that and see if there's anything that's more Gloucester related that you think we might be able to give to the students at graduation.
What's the budget and how many recipients is the top 5%?
Well, if there's 200 kids in the class, that's 10 kids. The budget, I believe that the pen and pencil sets that we normally buy are in the $25 to $30 range. I think the last book we gave them was when Gloucester came out with the Gloucester timeline. That was probably in that same range. So it's budgeted. And the other thing is that the mayor announced, the governor announced that on May 26th, the number for indoor meetings was going to go up to 200, which means that we can start to have in-person meetings once again. So I mentioned this a few meetings ago and to ask people in the audience whether about feedback as far as remote participation and that sort of thing. And I've gotten, I don't know if anybody else has gotten anything, but I did get 2 responses just saying they liked it and they thought it was good for access and it was easier for them to be involved in the community. So we'll ask for that again, and we ought to look at how we're going to make that work. Safafia, you have your hand
Yeah,
up?
well, the mayor's meeting today, they really weren't sure what the governor was really saying on that one, whether you still can have that, because he still hasn't taken off the state of emergency.
Yeah.
And he has to do that, and that depends on the Board of Health and everything else. So the fact is that we're all discussing that. Do we still go, everyone full at work? Are we going to go, non-Zoom? So it's really not clear yet.
Well,
we can talk about it, but the fact is that some people can't go into a room and can't have access and whatever. And if we're still in a state of emergency, it's still not clear what we're supposed to be doing, but we'll get that information before that time anyways.
You're right. And we did invest earlier this year in the equipment so that we can do a hybrid model of being in person and Zoom at the same time. Joel.
Yeah, and we've actually been testing it out on some of the negotiations with GAPE, and it's been going fine. So even if the committee wanted to start meeting in person and still keeping the public via Zoom, it's been working out fine to have, participants in the room and everyone else, remote.
Okay. Laura?
That was my question. I know we'd had a lot of conversation about how we do both. So I'm glad to hear from Joel that it's working, but are we prepared with a location to do that? I'm just wondering, we were talking about the library at the high school or somewhere else where that equipment could be useful also.
I think the options right now are the library at the high school or the library at O'Malley. I don't know what the city's plans are about Kairos, but that probably would be the only other possibility that I can think of. Samantha?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Joel said, I mean, the library at the high school seems to be working just fine. And I guess my question was, now that we have the equipment, what's the hesitation for us to not meet in person and still have the community Zoom in?
You know, I think the number of, right now the number is 25. And, you know, right now we have 13 people here, but earlier we had, you know, a lot more than that. So it's just a question of deciding on a place and sort of figuring out how we're going to get presenters, you know, whether they're going to be virtually presenting or whether they're going to, we're going to have people come in and present. So go ahead.
And just, I don't know, I don't know for sure how people would feel about this, but it seems like it's so much more accessible for staff to be able to virtually participate, to present versus coming in. That's just my opinion. So I think having that option is it's really important, because it's really nice to have that many people be able to come to our meetings and present and give as much information as they do. And I don't know if that would be quite as possible without giving them that option.
Okay. Well, let's do a few more test runs with negotiations. We can do that perhaps with the teachers. We've got meetings with them coming up, and if we can see our way clear to doing it without too much problem, then you know, maybe we can start before the May 26th meeting. We have 2 meetings in May, the 12th and
The 6th, I believe the 6th.
6th. No, we wouldn't have a meeting on the 6th. 2nd and 4th.
The 12th and the 26th.
What, 12th and the 26th? I think we have to go. Teachers, we meet with the 6th.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Thursday.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about the school committee and you were
Yeah.
thinking about the teachers.
Oh.
So let's want to see if we can try it on the with the teachers on the 6th.
Yeah, and I also have a couple of suggestions that I'll work on with Grant that'll actually improve the experience for folks that we can test out as well, which would improve the experience for folks at home.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so yeah, I think that doing a 6th with the teacher negotiations would be a good next step to try those out, and then the committee can decide whether that's a May meeting or the June meeting, that sort of thing. That's up to you.
Yeah. Because the negotiations be good, because although they're in public, we don't have to deal with any sort of, you know, people coming in, calling in, or you know, it would just be the teachers and us sitting at the table, right? Okay. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
Music to my ears.
Second.
Maria, could we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Favazza,
Yes.
Chairman Pope,
Yes.
Ms. Prince,
Yes. Good night.
Mayor Taken,
Yes, good night.
Ms. Watson,
Yes.
Ms. Weason,
Yes.
and Kathy Clancy.
Yes, and I want to thank Greg for bringing in such a great presentation tonight.
Yes, thank you, Greg.
Yes, that
Excellent
was.
presentation.
All right,
Okay.
good night, everyone.
Thank you all.
Night.
Good night.
Thank
See
you
you
very
all
much.
soon.